Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today's episode is sponsored by Athletic Greens, and they are giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D, along with 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is go to athleticgreens.com/insane. That is athleticgreens.com/insane. Enjoy today's episode.
Hi, my name is Kate, and I'm going to be talking about my grief process after losing my boyfriend to cancer. So, essentially, I was born. I came out of the womb, and then I was here. And then the first time I really started struggling with my mental health was when I was 8. I started I was always very anxious as a child. I was a very stressed about everything for no reason. But then all of a sudden, one day it got drastically worse. I couldn't sleep. I was really feeling just awful all the time. And my mom was something is just not right, because it was something that was very weird. And so I'm from Syracuse, and so we do not have good healthcare up there, and that will be a common theme for both me and Charlie. But my mom took me to this doctor, and he was my mom thought I had this thing called PANDAS, which is pediatric it's autoimmune strep infection.
Okay.
So it's essentially where you get really bad OCD as a result of chronic strep.
Okay.
So it's a really weird thing.
Yeah.
Because I would get strep all the time. And that was
so they thought that's where your anxiousness was spurring from.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because of how rapid the onset was. But the doctor was absolutely no, people don't really get that a lot, because it's a newer development. They only discovered it in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And so this was I don't know, early 2000s, so it was still new. But then I literally had strep infection when I was there, even though I didn't feel sick. And they immediately realized that that's what the problem was.
Yeah.
But they really couldn't do anything about it because it was in my system for too long. So now I just have chronic OCD. And that was kind of the first time in my life I realized that I was going to be a person with health issues for the rest of my life. But yeah, and I remember I was literally 8 years old, and the doctor goes to me. He goes, "I think you're 1 in 100,000." And I was oh, good.
Yeah. So did they give you any medicines for it, or they just kind of were this is what you have and deal with it?
So I had to be on antibiotic for 4 years.
Wow.
A very long period of time.
Did that affect your health at all? Being on antibiotics for that long?
Not that I noticed, but it honestly could have, and I just don't remember.
Yeah. Because I feel that's pretty harsh on the body.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if it was a lower dose or what it was. But I was on it for years. But essentially that was just so I didn't have strep in my body anymore.
Okay.
But it wouldn't get rid of the symptoms.
Got it.
So I've had very severe OCD ever since, which is weird in itself, because it's OCD is one of the weirdest things to explain, especially because I don't have it in a lot of the stereotypical ways, I guess.
Right.
I had a phase where it was a hand washing phase, but it goes in cycles. So then now I'm not a hand washer at all anymore. Now I'm more of a checker. I have to this will become a common theme, but I will think people are dead, and so I have to check their location to make sure they're alive. And so that's kind of, that will loop back around, but
that's your thing right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then going on through life, all pre-Charlie still, when I was the 8th grade, they started to realize that my hips and my joints were just not good, because I was a runner. And I was running on the high school team. I really loved it. Because I'm built very lanky, a string bean. So that was
perfect
obviously
for running.
Exactly. But my hips would kill me every single day.
Yeah.
They snap on each other. And then so I had a hip surgery because my femur's in the wrong place. So it's too forward in my pelvis. But they didn't realize that there was a bigger component to it. So like I had the surgery and it didn't help anything.
Okay.
And they kind of were just like, oh, she's just a young woman who's having pain. Like she's making it up. It's period pain.
Yeah.
Like naturally, of course. So, yeah. So like that's like all my like just Kate stuff before Charlie really even came into my life. So Charlie came into I had known him since kindergarten, but he really didn't become an important part of my life until the summer before my junior year of high school.
Okay.
Like we were very friendly. And we ran cross country together, like, but we were never like friends. It was just like, oh, like, hey, like just.
So did you know each other like through school, or was it a family family friends kind of thing?
Through school.
Okay.
Yeah, just through school. But we like I said, like we really weren't close. But then our freshman year of high school, he got very sick very fast. And no one could figure out what was wrong with him. And then all of a sudden, I remember vividly, I was with my friend Tim, and he goes to me, he goes, Charlie has cancer. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, he was like 14 years old. Like, who gets cancer at 14?
So at this time, were you and him were pretty close, or you said it wasn't until your junior year?
Yeah, so
Okay.
not at this point yet.
So freshman year is when he was diagnosed with cancer. Okay.
Yeah, so that's when he was diagnosed. And like I knew it wasn't a good prognosis because of the way my friend said it to me. I was like, oh, like, is he gonna be okay? Like, is there treatments? Like, and he just was kind of like no, like there's really nothing. But like he didn't really know either because like again we were like children.
I was gonna say in 9th grade you're still so young. I feel like even though you know what things are, your mind still doesn't fully grasp those kind of, the seriousness of those kind of things.
Exactly. And I definitely didn't grasp it at all. I was just like, he's going to be okay. Like, it's going to be hard. Like, we all have these hardships and like, but he's going to be fine. And then so shortly after that, I texted him and I was like, can I bring you fudge? Like, because people, I just, in my head, I'm like, if you have any problem, I have to make you fudge. That's only the way I know how to like care for people.
Yeah.
I'm a big like gift giver person. I like to bake things for people.
Where's the fudge?
I know. I'm sorry.
How are you going to bring up fudge and then not bring fudge?
I know.
Okay, now I'm upset. No, I'm just kidding. Keep going.
I sent it in the mail. And he was like, yes, of course you can bring me fudge. And so I just showed up at his house one day with like a thing of fudge, and he was like, it was like the most awkward thing ever. I was like, hey, like here's your fudge. And he was like, thanks.
Was he going through any treatments at this point or not yet?
Not yet, because he had just got diagnosed. And like this was before he could like, he went all over for treatment. I think he was in Ohio at one point. He was in Boston at one point. He was in Mexico at one point, like everywhere. But this was like right before he started treatment. And then I kind of just went on with my life, just like being in high school and doing all the things. And then all of a sudden, like the summer before junior year, he like just texted me out of the blue and was like, Kate, that was just so genuine of you that you brought me fudge that one time. I was just thinking about it. I just thought that was really sweet of you. And I was like, really? Wow. Like, that's nice. Like, because I would check in on him every once in a while. Right. Because we were friendly, and I worried, and like I literally, my OCD like latched on it big time. Like I would pray every single night for him. And I'm not religious at all anymore, but like I like every single night up over and over and over, because like OCD is a big thing of like cycles. Like I do it. Okay, I'll pray for him 10 times every night, and then he will stay alive. Well, like spoiler alert, like he didn't. He's dead. But at that time, that's what I thought. And yeah, so he just sent me that, and I was like, that's the sweetest thing I've ever heard. And so we just started talking a little bit, just texting. And immediately, as soon as I started texting him, I was like, oh, wait, like something's there. Like, and I was so nervous about it because I hadn't even ever had a boyfriend at that point. I was very innocent, for sure. I would like boys, but I would never speak to them. I would just like stare at them. Like that was enough for me.
Yeah, admire them.
Exactly. At the 14, that was enough.
Yeah.
Actually speaking to a man was just not for me. But I started talking to him and it was just so easy.
Right.
And he was just so funny. Like he was just one of the funniest people I've ever met. He's always doing like impressions and like if there's like anything of like old men and like all sorts of like weird things.
Yeah.
He's just like one of those very witty people. Right. But you wouldn't know it because he was very quiet. Like unless you were close to him, like you wouldn't know it. And so I was like, I'm starting to feel some things, but I'm gonna push it down because like this seems like a lot. And at this point, I don't think I knew that he was terminal, but shortly after I learned. But even when I knew he was terminal, I don't think, honestly, up until like a few months before he died, that I truly understood. So we went to just go hang out. We just went to go see a movie because like he was obsessed with movies. He always wanted to go movie theater. Like everyone got him like those like Regal Cinema gift cards because he was sick. Like he would always call it like cancer perks. He's like, I've got all these perks. Like let me treat you to a movie. Yeah. And I'd be like, okay, slay. Like I'll come. And so we went and we saw The Glass Castle. Like this wicked sad movie. Like why on earth did we go see that? Right. And I just was dying laughing the entire time I was hanging out with him. He was just so funny and just so easy to talk to. And just like, I just really enjoyed being around him, like more than I had previously with like with a guy before. Like I just never had felt like that strongly before. Right. And yeah, he was just wonderful. So I eventually, like I really battled myself whether or not I was going to tell him because I knew in my heart that he was never going to admit if he had feelings for me.
Why'd you think that? I
think because a combination of him being shy and him being sick. Okay. I don't think he ever wanted to bring anyone into that.
Got it.
And if I never had said anything, he would have never said anything. Okay. And he told me that. Because I was battling with myself back and forth. I was like, should I say something to him? Should I not? Like, I don't want to upset him. Like, I don't want to like have it be this big huge thing. Like he's got much bigger problems to worry about than like my feelings.
Well, it's tough too because it's like you enjoyed his company, which you could have just left it at, oh, like we can just keep enjoying each other's company. But at the end of the day, we're all human and we have feelings. And I think naturally when you start to like somebody, you want to tell them, you know, and like we all want it to be more if you do like someone. So it's like I can imagine like the back and forth like within yourself of like, should I not? Because it's like, you know, you never know.
Exactly. And I was like, I should just leave it friends, blah, blah, blah. And I just couldn't. Like something in me just knew that I couldn't. And I just like was really ballsy and just was like, I like you. Like you don't need to say anything about it. Like we don't need to speak of this ever again. Like I just have to tell you. Otherwise I'm going to lose my mind because I'm a very big person of like taking risks because like if you never try, you're never gonna know. Like I can't have any regrets in my life. I'm like deeply afraid of regrets. And I can like truly say that anything that I wanted to do, I just do. Because I like the idea of not completing what I need to do is just so unbearable to me. Yeah. And not knowing and never knowing, because I'll stick on it forever. I'll think about it forever. It's just unbearable to me. So I told him and he was like, Kate, like I feel exactly the same way. Like I was never gonna tell you because I don't want to bring you into all this. Like, and I was like, fuck it. Like I'm gonna do what I want. Like I don't really care. We'll just see. Yeah. We'll just see. It can mean nothing. We'll just see. And so literally right after that, he took me to the Make-A-Wish ball with him. And our first date was literally with his family at the Make-A-Wish ball. And I don't know why, but we had such a wonderful time. Like we literally, like there was like, because he was a teenager with cancer, like most people like in childhood cancer, like they don't show teenagers in that kind of struggle. There's not as many support groups for that. Like, and so it was literally like him and like one other person and then like a bunch of like 5-year-olds. But like there's like this dance floor and this band and like we're just the only ones out there dancing. We're just like slow dancing on the dance floor by ourselves. And like, that's not like me at all.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was really like him at all either. Cause I'm like, I'd be like, oh, what are people thinking? Are they looking at me? Blah, blah, blah. And I just didn't care.
Yeah. You were very in the moment.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think everyone there kind of like felt what I was feeling too, because like the photographer like wouldn't leave us alone there, like was just like taking all these pictures of us, just, and his family was just, or they are, I'm still very close with his family, and they are some of the most wonderful people on this world. Good. And it was just so wonderful. It was like he wanted to do everything he could to like make me feel happy and appreciated. And like, I remember he held my hand and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna faint. And immediately after that, he literally texted me and told me he loved me. And I was like, yeah, that's fair. Like, aww. It was like now I would never ever do that.
Right.
But like, given the circumstances,
I feel like it depends on the situation. And anybody can say, oh, it's too soon to say certain things. But I feel like too, if you have a certain chemistry with somebody, sometimes time doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like you guys knew. And I think too, you can love somebody before a relationship because you guys did have a friendship and you really did enjoy each other's time so much that like once you kind of said, oh, I like you too, it kind of just added on top of all of the other good stuff. So I don't know. I think that sometimes you just know, and sometimes it does happen sooner than, 6 months or a year down the road or whatever the time might be. I don't think there's ever a right time, to say those things.
Yeah.
So I think it's good. I think you guys had good chemistry.
Yeah. It was just nuts. Like, because I'm a very practical person.
Yeah.
I'm like, I like to play by the rules. Like,
right. Play it safe.
Exactly. I'm just like that by nature, but I just like did not care with him. I was like, I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm going to say whatever I'm going to say. And yeah, so we were like immediately together right after that. And the pace of our relationship was just unlike anything else. Like it just, even though we were dating in high school, it didn't feel like a high school relationship even a little bit, just because he wasn't even in school at this point, because he was so close to the end of his life that he wasn't in school. So he had, I don't even know if I said what kind of cancer he had, but he had DIPG, which is it's a brain tumor on the back of your brainstem. So like that's where all your like vital functions are.
Yeah.
So there's a 0% of survival with that type of
So do they even do any type of like chemotherapy for it, or they just don't because the chances are not there?
So the only stuff for it really is experimental.
Okay.
Because chemo like won't do anything for it. They have like some like new experimental treatment that is like radiation just specifically to that point. But I don't think it's really, it's like improving, but it's not.
Right.
It's not curing it yet.
So it's not a common type of cancer, or?
No, it's very rare. Yeah, it's very, very rare. And no one has survived it yet. And like, even though he would tell me this kind of stuff all the time, because he was very open. And I'm like 16. And I'm like, every day I go and see him, he's talking to me about death every single time I see him, because it's the only thing that was on his mind. He'd been thinking about this since he was 14. And like, it was very shocking to me at the time. And I was like, oh, let's not talk about that. Like, you're not dying. And he's like, no, I am. Right. This is what my funeral is going to be like. I want 70s rock music. And I want pizza there, and I want it at this church, and I want this, and I want that. And I'm just like on the highway driving, like shaking.
Right.
Because he's literally planning his funeral out in front of me. But it was just, and like that's why it wasn't like any other, like I believe you fully can find love in high school, even not with this circumstance. I don't think it happens a lot, but I think it definitely happens. But this circumstance, it just was so unlike. He wasn't even in school. He's literally talking to me about how he's planning his funeral.
Right.
And we just still had the most wonderful times. We would like go to all these diners together, and we're both big like breakfast people. Like I need a pancake every single day.
Yeah.
Or I don't have one, but I want one.
Yeah.
And like we go to the park, and he'd be like, let's just lay in the grass. I'm like, why? But like now I'm like, okay, like is that necessary? But in the moment, like if anyone else had asked me that, I'd be like, absolutely not. Like, no. But like, because it was him and I just like didn't care. I was like, everything was wonderful with him.
Right.
We would just sit and he would like literally text me one day and he'd be like, do you want to make a pillow fort today? Like, can we have a pillow fort date? I was like, yes, like, of course. Just like the like sweetest things.
Right.
And he was just very like a tree lover, like tree hugger kind of person, like very, very into animals, very into nature. Like I like more than anyone I've ever met in my entire life, just like so genuinely loves it. And he would always want to watch nature documentaries. And like, I don't care about nature documentaries. Right. But just watching him watch a nature documentary, like insane. Like, it's just like when you watch something that someone loves through their eyes, it's like the funniest, like it's the sweetest thing ever.
Right. It brings you happiness too, I feel like. Yeah. Especially if you care about the person.
Exactly. And it really did. I'd be like, I like the flamingos. This is my favorite part. Like we got into it. But like it was all very hard in a lot of ways that I didn't understand at the time, because we would be having all these amazing moments when we were together. But in between time, like he was going to Mexico like for experimental treatment like every few weeks. So he'd be down there for a while. Or when we were together, probably like 2 or 3 months into our relationship, he fell into septic shock. And
which is what?
It's like, I don't even know, but I know that like it's like deathly, like, and it happens to people. It's like when you fall into sepsis. And at the time, I really didn't know what that meant at all. But now I know, like, people die from that, like, a lot. But I just didn't know. So he didn't text me back. And I was just like, whatever. Like, he was never much of a texter, so I didn't really think anything of it.
Right.
But then he was in the hospital on his deathbed. And so then that kind of put in that, like, that's kind of where my OCD latched onto that thing of, like, I think everyone I love is dying if I don't hear from them. And, like, I've kind of gotten better with that, but, like, still, like, it's like because when it happens and it's true, like, it's something like OCD will latch right onto that. Like, for people without it, like, you will still have plenty of problems, but it's that obsessive thinking and like
and the fear too.
Exactly. And like I would just go and see him in the hospital, and like when he was good, he was great. But like when he was like having like a worse, like when he was sicker, like I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Like he just was so frail and just not himself at all. He had a walker. But, like, he was such a good sport about everything. Like, he had all stickers on his walker. And he was like, these are my skateboard stickers for my hot ride. And I'm like, oh, my God. You kill me. But, like, it just, like, and he was sad. Like, he didn't want to die at all. But he was also very in an acceptance phase. And I for sure wasn't. And as, like, a 16-year-old, I didn't really realize – in the moment, like, I was just living day to day. I was like, because I couldn't do anything else. I'm like, I just want to be in the moment here with him right now. And I'll deal with all this, like, the almost dying and then not, and then almost dying again. And then he tells me his tumor has grown. And then he says it's shrank. And then, like, it was a very back and forth.
Yeah, very up and down.
Very up and down. And, like, when we started dating, he was already past his life expectancy. So DIPG has a life expectancy of 9 months. He was at a 1.5 years when we started dating. And he died at 2.5. Okay. So he made it much past his life expectancy, which was great. But like he already knew he was living on borrowed time. And that was horrible for everybody and for my family too. They were just so worried about me, and I was like, why would you be worried about me? Like I'm with somebody I love. But like it's like now I have to really separate it into like what the trauma of the cancer and like the wonderfulness of who Charlie was as a person. Because he was so good to me. He even like I was really I was like obsessed with the prom. Like I need to go to the prom. It needs to be this extravagant thing. And like I think I put even more weight on it because I knew like we wouldn't have a chance for anything other than that. But then right before, so this is April, I think. So we started dating in August, and like this is April, or March, somewhere around there, of like 2018. And he says to me, like, I don't think I'm going to make it to prom. Like, I don't think I'm going to be alive for then, because it was just getting worse. And I would just break down. Mm-hmm. I would like volunteer in the special ed classrooms at my high school, because I'm a speech pathology grad student now. So like, that's like my thing. I would literally go in and I'd sob to the TAs, and they just like, I was just like unconsolable, because like, what was I supposed to do? There's no consoling that. And, but he just like randomly one day, he tells me, he's like, I need you to get your prom dress. Get your prom dress altered, because I know you haven't done that. Like, get it ready. Like, you need to like be ready. This is the date. I'm gonna come pick you up. Like, it's everything. And so he showed up at my house in a limo with a photographer, and like threw this huge thing for me, and like had this professional photographer take all these photos of us. And like, he was very into photos. Like, he wanted photos of everything. Like, I never remember to take photos, because like, I'm a very like right here, right now. Yeah. And then later I'm like, oh, like I wish I took a photo. Right. But he was like, every time I saw him, he'd be like, let's take a photo. Like, do you wanna take a picture? He'd be like, have his mom take pictures of us. And I was like, I'm so embarrassed. Right. But so he had all these beautiful photos of us taken, and then took me to this beautiful dinner and this nice Italian restaurant. And like, he at this point is very frail. Like, his mom literally had to come with us, because she didn't, just in case something happened, because it was like, she's just like creeping in the back, because he was just not, like, he was not well at all. Yeah. But he knew that this mattered to me so much. Even though, like, why was that my concern at the time? But, you know, I'm a 16-year-old girl at this time. Like, that was everything. The prom was everything to me. And he really put such an effort. And then I ate this creme brulee, and it was delicious. And I came back to his house, and he had decorated the whole thing for me. And like, he just like made a playlist for us, and we like just danced and like had a good time together.
It's really sweet.
It was the sweetest thing I've ever, like, it was so sweet. And then I got food poisoning.
Oh, okay, great.
So immediately after.
Oh my gosh.
From the creme brulee. Yeah.
What? That's nuts.
Right? He's literally, like, he's the one who's deathly ill, and he's literally in the bathroom holding my hair back as I like vomit into his toilet.
Oh my god.
Aggressively. And like, you know, like it's not like cute either. Like, I have like makeup on, and like you like cry. Yeah. He's just like, hi Kate.
Right. Just
like,
topped off the night perfectly.
Exactly. But like, why does like that is like one of the most special memories to me anyways.
And now a word from our sponsor. Our sponsor for today is Athletic Greens. If you guys know me, you know that I take my health extremely seriously. I am a big gym freak. I love to eat healthy, and I love to feel good overall. That being said, I have tried to find supplements to just boost this. I have tried energy drinks and coffee and everything in between to just always feel ready to go and just ready to start my day or ready to start my workout. But those things aren't always healthy. Energy drinks are full of chemicals. Caffeine definitely always upsets my stomach because I have a pretty sensitive gut. And that is where AG1 comes in to save the day. AG1 is full of vitamins and minerals. It tastes amazing, and it is going to give you a natural energy boost. It's going to improve your skin, your hair, your nails. I've literally seen an improvement in all of those things because obviously when you put healthy things into your body, the outside of your body shows that. It's great for my gut and digestive health because, like I mentioned, I have a really, really sensitive stomach. So it's important for me to really be cautious of what I'm drinking and consuming. So if you are looking for an easier way to take supplements, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D along with 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is go to athleticgreens.com/insane. That is athleticgreens.com/insane. Enjoy the episode.
But then like he started getting sicker and sicker. And like right after he had another photographer come who is wonderful. She used to do these projects for she would do free photography sessions for children with cancer. And so she had done some for Charlie and his family before, but Charlie like texted me one day and was like, I really want you to come take these pictures with me. I'm like, I'm not gonna like invade this family moment. He's like, no, like I want you to be there. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, of course, if you want me to be there, like I'll be there. And then a few weeks later, he literally like 2 weeks later, he like suddenly broke up with me. And I think it was because, or I know it was because he knew that his time was not.
What did he say?
Much more. He was like, he said anything he had to like get me to like believe it was for other reasons. He'd be like, no, okay, I just don't want to be together. And I'm like, and it was heartbreaking. It was like, because all this stuff happened just weeks before, like all these like very special moments, very special things. And the entirety of our relationship, he was very, very protective of me. He didn't want me to have to see any of this stuff. Like if he had a morphine drip on, like he didn't want me to come over. If he's in the hospital, he would tell his mom not to tell me. Like he would tell me all the time, like, Kate, like I just want to protect you from all this. I don't want you. And like, I just didn't care. I just wanted to be there. Like it wasn't something that was important to me to be protected. Like I wish I hadn't been, but like he said, like whatever he had to, and we broke up and we are still friends. But it was just horrible. Like it was not, because like we were friends for a period of time, but not very long. Like we pretty much like went like straight to like being each other's person, and he died like a few weeks later.
A few weeks after he ended things? Yeah.
But right before he, I wish I had it on me, but I have this thumbprint necklace that he gave me. That's his thumbprint and his name on the back. And I like gave it back to him when he broke up with me. I was like, I don't want it. Give it to your mom. Like, I want her to have it. Like, and he had her save it for me. And his family like came to me after because he wanted to see me. I was one of the last people that saw him alive. Like he didn't want to see anybody at this point in time because he had grown apart from a lot of his friends because they were all athletes like he used to be. And talking about all these fun things that they could all do together. But I kind of could relate to him to an extent because like I had grown up with the pandas and these hips problems that later turned out to, I just got diagnosed this year with like Ehlers-Danlos and POTS, like these rare genetic conditions that cause chronic pain, and like that was the why. So like I know what it's like to be in pain and not want to participate with the rest of the world in that way. Like, but I obviously will never know to that extent, or I'm not comparing the two things, but I could
relate a little bit better.
Yeah. I could understand in a way that his friends couldn't. And he wanted to see me last, and he just like kind of just was like told me that he loved me and that he like had this perfect last moment. Like it was like the last day that he felt good before he died. He like saw me, and then he passed away. And that's more so like the grief side of things and me trying to deal with all of that after, because like it's an ongoing process, and I know it's so different for everybody, grief, and I really have learned that. And it's also so crazy how people don't know how to act, especially young people, because like they've never been told, like, and even adults. I've had some adults say some really crazy things to me, like even still.
Right.
And I was obviously devastated. And like I'm stitched on. He had a natural burial because that was so important to him. So he's literally, it's like this like quilt and all his people he loved stitched our names on it. And then it's just like straight into the ground, like no coffin. So it's like a kind of like back to the earth type of thing.
Okay.
And it's like this beautiful ceremony where they grow all these wildflowers over you. So it's this really beautiful thing that was perfect for him.
Yeah.
Because he was like this big, like earthy, like he scouted out this spot, literally like sent me a picture with the lady who owns the graveyard. He's like, look at me and my grave lady. Like, I'm like, stop with that.
Yeah.
Stop with that. That's too much. But yeah, so it's not like I didn't eat. I didn't talk to anybody. Like now I'm going into my senior year of high school because that happened right that summer before. And I all of a sudden like I'm a very like happy, like chatty, like person. Like my friends always say, like I have resting smiley face instead of like resting bitch face.
Yeah.
But I was just miserable.
Right.
Obviously. I'm devastated and I didn't understand why someone so wonderful had to die for literally no reason. And everyone goes like, my least favorite thing to hear ever is everything happens for a reason.
Right.
Because I'm like, what is the reason? Like, tell me the reason for this. Like, and I understand, obviously, I think certainly some things happen for a reason. I just don't think that was one of them.
Right.
And so like that is just like the most, to me, that's like the most inappropriate response ever. I'd have like these like grown adults come to me and be like, he's in a better place. I'm like, is he?
Right.
Because like, shouldn't he be here with his family?
And I want to mention too, you know, I think that the grief after the fact is one type of grief, but then you still, I mean, no matter what age you are, having to go through that's going to take a toll and be really hard for anyone. But I think too, you being so young and like your brain, like we were saying before, it's like at that age, you can't even grasp like actually what's happening. And I think that naturally in moments like that, the main thing that you're going to be thinking about is, okay, we don't have much time together. All I want to do is spend as much time I can with him, you know, make him happy. He makes me happy. And I think that on the outside, that's all that we think we're thinking about. But in actuality, the situation and the reality of what's actually happening takes such a toll on you without you even realizing it. You know what I mean? Like during even, you know, even like the moments that you guys had all these good times, it's still a lot for somebody to take on and handle and even process. You know, that takes so much time to actually process and go through. So it's like, you know, after the fact, you were going through the grief of actually losing him, but then you still probably didn't even process what all just happened, you know, because that's so much for you or anybody to deal with and go through, especially at such a young age.
Exactly. And I didn't realize how traumatized I was being through this whole process because I was there.
And it's very emotionally draining. Like you might not even realize it, but it's like everything that's happening, you almost put on yourself, even if you don't realize it, because you see all these things that are happening and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's not the norm, you know what I mean, for a high school student to have to go through. So it's like, it's very hard, I think, on anybody, and especially just like on your emotions and your heart. It's not an easy thing at all.
No, it certainly wasn't. And I processed it for years after.
Right. Because
these are all these things that I never realized or processed. And I found out, like, I think a year after he died that I had PTSD. And I was like, what do you mean I have PTSD? Like, there should be no reason I have PTSD. And they're like, and my therapist was like, Kate, like, this was a traumatic event, if you realize it or not. This, like, going back, like, I would have these, I think I honestly had it all the way through and I just didn't know. Because I'd have these horrific panic attacks all the time. I was just, like, so distressed all the time, like, just shaking. Every day I was afraid that he was dead. Right. And it was just horrible. It was ungodly horrible for everyone that was close to him. And I just, like, didn't realize, and especially going into it, like, I had no idea. I didn't think that through. I just was like, I'm obsessed with him. He's the best person I've ever met. Like, I have to be with him. Like, that was all that mattered to me. And I would do the exact same thing over again. I think, honestly, for me, that it was better that I didn't think about it.
Right.
And that I didn't know all this after stuff, because that has nothing to do with him as a person, or his circumstance has nothing to do with him. Like, he was nothing but wonderful. Truthfully, like, nothing but wonderful. Like, he'd always say, like, he doesn't like when people, like, glorify people who are sick or people who are dead. So he was not a perfect person, but he was pretty damn close.
Yeah.
He was just a wonderful person who I enjoyed immensely and loved so deeply. But yeah, I didn't think that through at all. I had no idea what it was going to be like. And then right after, like, I lost, like, a ton of my friends because my people didn't want to be around me because, like, they had no idea what to say to me. Like, I just, like, grew this dark sense of humor and, like, because that's how he was. He would like make these just extremely out of pocket dark jokes all the time. And so in my head, I'm like, that's how you process grief. And so that's still how I do it. But, like, now, like, I know how to advocate for myself and for other people in terms of grief, and I can explain it to people. But at the time, I couldn't.
Right.
And so I, like, lost, and, like, my senior year of high school, I had, like, practically no friends because, or, like, I don't know that we weren't friends, but, like, we weren't close anymore because they just didn't understand. And it's not their fault. They were children also. Like, we were all children in this, and, like, they don't know what to do. No one trained them on
how to be a friend to somebody who just went through that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why a big part of the reason I like to talk about this is because, like, I am not the person to tell you how to deal with having cancer because that was not my experience. My experience of losing someone to cancer, someone very, very close to them, like, I can help advocate for, like, what do you say? What do you do? Like,
the grief aspect, like, on,
exactly.
I feel like the grief aspect from your perspective, but also, like you were saying, from even maybe an outsider's perspective, like that somebody that might be your friend or, you know, just some, like, an acquaintance, anything. That's what I was just thinking before you said it, is like, I feel like that is going to be a big thing for the people listening that could really help and even just feel heard too, because even if it could be losing a parent or losing a friend, you know, especially if it's around the same time frame as you were, you know, in high school or, you know, pretty young, I feel like this is a good episode for people to really feel heard and related to. And then, like I said too, just if you are a friend of somebody who's going through that, how to deal with them and help them too and hear them. Because sometimes all people need is just somebody to listen. It's not even always about advice or helping them cope. It's just literally just being there. But it's like at that age, I think it's so hard for people to do that because you're young, and you, even for a friend, it's like, how do they process what their friend is going through? You know, so it's difficult from all angles too.
Exactly. And I don't think I had very much sensitivity towards my friends at that time. Now I 100% do. I'm like, how on earth would they have known? But at the time I was bitter and
of course
angry.
Yeah.
And, but no, it's so important. And yeah, like, and from all these different perspectives of what do you say as a friend? What do you say as a parent? What do you
maybe not say?
Yeah, what do you not say? I more so know what to not say.
Yeah.
Don't say they're in a better place. Don't say
it happened for
a reason.
Yeah.
Those are the big two. No. I don't know. Like, there's just so many, like, weird things people say to me. Or I used to get really pissed. Like, or even recently, like this year, like, Charlie, so I'm 22 now. He died when we were 17. So it's been like 4 years, like 4.5 years. And just this year, I had a girl I went to high school with who really didn't really even know him and, like, moved before this really even started happening and texted me because she heard something about someone in his family and wanted the inside scoop. I was like, what's wrong with you? You don't know him. You don't love him. You don't care about him. Why do you think I'm, like, your inside source for, like, this family's trauma? Like, absolutely not. Or, like, I don't know. There was a lot of, like, people that would, like, be like, he was my best friend. I'm like, I was there.
Right.
Where were you? Like, I saw you. Like, and, like, I understand, like, having a hard time being there during something like that, because believe me, I get it. That was not always pleasant, for sure. Like, that was very traumatic at a lot of times, but had nothing to do with him at all. Again, but the pretending of like, yes, we're besties, like, love you forever, brother. I'm like, no, no, that like rubbed me the wrongest way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so even stuff like that, just trying to like advocate to just like don't say stuff like that, and like, or that grief is messy, and like not every moment is going to be perfect. Like, the fact that we broke up right before he died, and like I dealt with that, like processing that forever. It was like, he never loved me, he hated me, blah 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 blah. But like literally his family was like, Kate, like he was just so sick. Like, it was family. I met family members at his funeral that I had never met before in my life, and they knew me by face. And they called up to me and they're like, you were so important to him, you were so special to him. Like, allowing yourself to grieve and feel the way you feel, no matter what kind of messiness is going on, because I almost felt like I wasn't allowed to grieve.
Yeah.
And like, there is still to this day, like, I miss him all the time. I think about him every day. Like, I'm in a place where I accept, I don't want what has happened to have happened, but it did. Like, it's too late for that. Like, I accept, and I have built such a beautiful life for myself anyways. And I love doing stuff that I think would have made him proud. Or like shortly right after he died, I gave a TED Talk. Like, literally within 6 months, I was like, I'm giving a TED Talk. Like, again, another one of those take the risk type of things. Or as I can't die and not have given a TED Talk about this, and like what it means to really like love fully and love openly and take every risk despite all the messiness and consequence side of things. And a few years later, I literally came out with because throughout this whole process of me dating him till like years after he died, like, I was writing, because coping through writing is like one of the best things ever. And like, it doesn't need to be good. You literally just like, I just like type, like, I'll be up in the middle of the night and I'll just think of something or upset me, or like in the moment, like I couldn't express myself in a way that made sense. So I would just write all the time. And then I looked and I had like 100 pages of this poems and essays and all this stuff. So I put it together, and I'm like, this is a grief memoir of like what it's really like. Like, it's not
very like a raw side of it.
Exactly.
Like, not perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because like, I'm not going to do everything right. And I didn't. I 100% didn't. But I showed up for him, and I loved him fiercely, and I told him I loved him every day until the end. And he showed up for me. He really, really did. And like, when he did not need to, and when he had nothing to give, literally nothing to give, he showed up for me. And yeah, so like this messy grief, I don't know if I'm making any sense at all.
No, you are.
And like the like going in and out of stages, like there's no like 7 stages of grief. Like, yes, those are all stages, but for me anyways, like, it's the most like random order ever.
You could wake up and feel good and have a good day, and then the next day feel like you're back, like it just happened all over again. Like, there is no, I agree with you, there is no like right process. Everybody handles it differently, number one, like you said in the beginning, and number two, you could literally have good days and bad days, no matter whether you're 5 years into it or 1 day into it, which is, it's just normal. It's part of it.
Exactly. And it's just how it goes. Like, there, I always like to say, like, I'm always moving forward. I'm building my life around this great love and this great loss. And I'm always moving forward, but I'm never moving on, because I think moving on is just something that doesn't need to happen. Like, this happened and it was wonderful and it can stay, and everything else can go around it. Like, I'm still going to find someone else that I love fiercely, and it's then that can understand that this is important to me, and that this is all stuff that I care about, and advocating for childhood cancer and grief, and that Charlie was a big part of my life, and that is a love that's always going to be within me, but I can I don't think love is finite. Like, why can't you love someone who is lost and also love other people? Why can't I have days where I am just devastated by this loss and like also like be girl bossing it up? Like, I'm in grad school a year early. Like, I'm going around, I'm doing all my things. And like, that's great. But like, I also like have days where I literally like will wake up in the middle of the night and look through old pictures and sob. And like, is that frequently anymore? No, but probably once every 2 months.
Yeah.
Like, as a cycle, like it just kind of happens, and that's fine. And like, also like, people will always like look at you if you're crazy, if you like talk out loud to them. I feel like that is just such a beautiful way of connecting. And if I'm in a car by myself driving, because I have this little Prius. Her name is Polly. She's adorable.
Polly the Prius.
Polly the Prius. She's incredible. And Charlie would always make fun of it. He was like, "What is this?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't hate. She's beautiful. No. And so if I'm alone in my car, I haven't done it in a while, but once in a while, I'll just talk to him and I'll be like, "This is what's going on in my life. Like, look how cool I am with this. Like, I wonder what you're doing over there." And like, staying like, so just talking aloud, like, it's like, what's the problem with that? It's just,
yeah. And if that helps you and works for you,
exactly.
That's all that matters, for sure.
Exactly. And like, obviously that won't work for everybody. Everybody has their own things, and some people don't want to talk about it at all. But I think a lot of the reason people don't want to talk about it at all sometimes is that they feel like they can't, or they shouldn't, or they're going to get shut down by other people.
So you were in therapy afterwards, right? Okay. And then are you still in therapy now?
So I, like, it's funny because to anybody else, I would be the person with more health problems, mental and physically, except for him. Yeah. I've been in therapy literally since I was 8 for like this OCD and anxiety and PTSD. Like, it's just been a common, PTSD is new, but the rest has just been a common theme in my life. And it's always been bad. I also have a skin picking disorder. I have dermatillomania. So like, my like anxiety or my OCD, my obsession will literally manifest itself into me like ripping my skin apart to like, and then that makes you feel so shameful. Like, what did I just do? Like, I'm hideous. And then you hate yourself. And then I need control again in my life. And then you do it over again. So I've been in therapy pretty much my entire life. I've always been medicated, because I need to be. That's how I can function. And that's fine. And like, I'm always going to be a person that needs more medically. Like, I have to go get trigger point injection shots for my connective tissue disorder, like that genetic disorder I have, or I have POTS. So my blood pressure goes down and my heart rate goes up, especially when I change positions or if it's hot, or sometimes just randomly. And so my eyesight will black out and I'll like pretty much faint very frequently. Like, I'll just get out of bed, I'll go right back to the floor. So like, I'm always going to need more health stuff than a lot of people. But like, that's fine. Like, sometimes you just got to do what you need to do to get by. Yeah. So I've always been in therapy, and I've always had to deal with a lot of things like that, on top of like all these circumstantial stuff, and then like normal stuff. Like, like even just now, like, I always like, I'll get like crappy guys at the bar be like, "Oh, like, you're so tall, you play basketball." I'm like, ew, like, no, like, just like normal stuff like that. Additionally, I'd have to like all these like strange things.
Yeah. And then what is it? I wanted you to touch into a little bit of what you do now, because I thought that was really interesting. And I feel like it obviously ties into everything that you experienced. So I feel like it's an important thing for you to talk about.
Yeah. So I'm in grad school for speech pathology right now, and I love it. It's the most wonderful field in the whole world. And it is so hard. It is so challenging. But I've been working with different individuals with disabilities since I was like 16. And this is a big part of what got me through after losing Charlie, because like, these are my like my people. Like when I get to work with these different populations, I work with people who are nonverbal. I work with people with all sorts of different developmental disabilities. And now in grad school, I've really worked with everybody. Right now I'm in the schools. So I'm in Stanford, and just all these different kids with, I have one with selective mutism. I have some with articulation disorders, everything. And I had old people, dementia, aphasias. Like it's such this broad field of communicating, just getting what you need to get across and how you can do it best, and swallowing also. So how you can swallow safely. So that's what I do, and I love it because obviously I'm chatty, and I think communication is one of the most important things in the entire world. And so it's become such a passion of mine, and I love it so much because you can actively see right in front of you what the difference you are making. Because like when a kid gets it, or when an adult gets it, and like all of a sudden like they just start getting something right that they were never getting right before, it's just the most incredible feeling ever. Yeah. Or I have a patient so aphasia is after a stroke. There's all different types, but one of the major problems is word finding and like disorganization of thoughts. Like there's a lot of different symptoms of it and a lot of different types. But anyway, this particular patient was having a really hard time making schedules in his phone notes, and like just couldn't get the order of it down, like no matter what he did. And we finally got a process that worked for him. And then he came back this semester and has different girls in the other cohort, and he was doing it immediately. They told me, they're like, what? I don't see a problem with that. Like he doesn't need help with that anymore. Like you fixed it. And like that so functionally changed his life, where he can now be at all his appointments on time, knows where he needs to be, can see it visually. Like it just helps him so much. Like something so small, like being like your own calendar appointment. It's
made
so
the biggest
important.
difference. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then did you say you work with children also? Okay. And what do you do with that? Like did you say with children that have had like family with cancer? Is that what you were saying before?
Oh, yes. I've done that too. Okay. I've done a lot of things. I'm a little all over the board.
Yeah.
I used to volunteer at this camp for children. They do a bunch of different things. It's Camp Good Days. It takes place in upstate New York, which is where I'm from. And it's this beautiful camp. They have all different weeks for all different ways cancer affects you. And so the week I used to volunteer at is called Teddy's Team, and it's for children with cancer, but there's weeks for children that have lost someone to cancer. There's a week for children that have siblings with cancer. There's a week for that have parents with cancer. All sorts of different weeks for everybody. And it's just you go here and you just love the shit out of these kids, essentially. Yeah. Like you just like give them all the support and all the love and just let them talk. Like just like you were saying, like just listening like means so much to these kids, and it's so wonderful. And I did this thing my senior year of high school where we raised a ton of money for this camp. It's like called like, it's for like dance marathon. I know a lot of schools do a similar thing, a lot of colleges do, but my high school did it for whatever reason. And we raised like $100,000 for this camp. And like I'm not like, I don't know, like I'm not someone who likes to go out of my box. I like to do my thing. Like like to be structured. And this was very out of my comfort zone because it was like with all people I didn't know, and this like, or I knew but like wasn't friends with, like it wasn't my crowd at all. But like for this cause, like it meant so much for me, and I'm so glad that I did that. And I in undergrad I was in Tri Delta sorority exclusively because I wanted to work with St. Jude. So I always try to keep that stuff with me the best that I can.
Yeah, and I was going to say too, I feel like obviously your experience was so tragic and was something horrible that you went through. But at the same time, I feel like that allows you to be that much more open to these other kids and people that have gone through something similar or even might have cancer because you've experienced that firsthand with somebody that you loved so much. So I almost feel like that makes you the perfect person to help other people that are going through that, because you actually can relate and understand it. Because I think that, I mean, this is with anything too, you know, that people can have a job or volunteer with something and they can want to do it and they could be good at it. But I think that there's something more, I don't want to say more empowering, but there's something different about somebody that really has experienced it and understands it, because I just feel like you hold it in your heart, and that really shows through when it comes to helping somebody else that's going through it or has been through it. So I think that it's really empowering and amazing that you do volunteer and you help children and you help, you know, people in general, just in so many ways, because I feel like you just have a warmness to your heart because you can understand what it feels like to lose someone you love, and in such a sad, unfortunate way too. You know, like you basically, I always say, I think something that's really hard is to have to watch someone you love just kind of decline when they are such an amazing bright light, you know. And I think that it's amazing too, because in a way I think that seeing Charlie, right? Mm-hmm. Seeing Charlie kind of hold his strength and brightness through such a dark time in his life kind of gives you strength for, like, you know, like if in any place in your life you might be going through something, you can kind of remember and tap back into, well, if he could be strong when he went through this, I can be strong. So I feel like there's so many little things that, and big things that you can take from, you know, the tragic experience and just make it bright and happy and help yourself and help others, which it sounds like you do so often and so much. So even coming on here, and obviously you're going to help so many people that are just listening, even if it isn't the exact same experience, it's still going to touch so many people and make so many people feel heard and understood, and even just understand what somebody might have gone through, and, you know, what he went through, but also what you went through, like I was saying before, so that people can maybe even just have more sincerity, and not, because I think it can be frustrating, especially if people don't understand. So maybe just to, like, help people let their walls down and be like, okay, this person's going through something, I just need to be there and listen, and just let them know, like, I'm here to support them if they need it. So I think it's amazing, everything that you're doing, and even, like I said, the fact that you came on here to open up and share your story. So I think it's great.
Thank you so much.
Of course.